So I think one thing I have to ask you on this, and I know it's complicated and forecasting is always extremely difficult, but that's since we're talking about it, um, and especially because one of the principles of intelligence analysis when it comes to forecasting, and you would know a lot more about this than me, is that it can be sort of tricky when people use words to describe probability. And so that because of that, it's better to use quantitative statements to convey odds of something happening. So in this case, what would be, and you know, it's very theoretical and clearly it's your personal assessment, but if you could give me the odds in terms of percentage of a military conflict with China happening in this decade, what would your assessment be?
Yeah, there's so many factors that nobody would have really an estimate that you would want to bank on, right? Because there's so many things that you just can't determine on those key factors. That said, one constant is Xi's iron will to take Taiwan and politically put it back under Beijing's thumb. Xi's going to be around for a while. There are no limits on his leadership, right? He is confident. He takes a look. People are like, well, clearly he's lost confidence because of his economy. He hasn't lost confidence. He is making hard structural changes that require near-term suffering for the Chinese economy to ultimately have stronger elements, structural elements to it going forward, right? He is consciously making hard choices in this way, but he feels like in the aggregate that the advantage goes to him in many different areas. So if that guy is confident and that guy is intentional and he's fulfilling every other element of his grand strategy and he's still going to be in power in the late 20s, then you need to think hard about this. I would say that it's 60-40. If Xi Jinping's in power and there are some of those factors that line up that are conducive, I think it's 60-40 that he will go. I think that if any other Chinese leader were in power, it would probably be like 30-70. There would be less likely until it was like totally, perfectly aligned, perfect opportunity, perfect everything. I just think other leaders would be far more wary about doing that, but not Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping clearly thinks this would be the triumph of his tenure if he was able to pull Taiwan back in.
I gotta say, I didn't expect such a high probability.
Well, that's why we're taking it seriously. If the U.S. government didn't take it seriously, DoD didn't take it seriously, you wouldn't be seeing lots of effort and compressed timeframes to be able to get more deterrent capability. We take it so seriously that we know we have to increase our deterrent material, right, strategic to tactical, and what we have forward and how we work with our allies to be able to shape Xi Jinping's thinking on this. Maybe if you talk to me in a year or two, I'll take a look at it and go, you know what, we've been so successful. I think the issue is now 50-50, but we're not there. It's still 60-40 in my humble opinion as a longtime China watcher who's been looking at this problem since the late 90s. We're in a very dangerous time. That's why we've called this the decisive decade. That's in our documents, that the 2020s is the decisive decade with regard to China. And the most dangerous part is going to be the late 20s and going into the early 30s if nothing happens in the late 20s.